Hi, it's Miss Lee again. Now that we've learned about FDP benchmarks, fraction decimal percent benchmarks, how to find their equivalents, we're going to go ahead and do some practice. This is going to be our guided practice. These are included in your notes, so make sure that you are doing the work in your notes. Try not to use the notes we've already made. Let's see if we can remember what the equivalents are by ourselves without looking at our old notes. Okay, we have a table. We want to find the missing values, and the first row has been done for us. So let's go ahead and take a look. Looking at the first fraction, 1/4. Did you think of this as quarters? There being 4 quarters to make one whole dollar? Hopefully so. If not, please start getting in the habit. Every time you see a denominator of 4, you need to think about quarters. This 1 indicates that there's only 1 quarter. And we know how much 1 quarter is. 1 quarter is 25 cents. So that 25 cents would be your decimal value. And it's 25 cents out of 100 cents. And anything out of 100 you can write as a percent. So 25 out of 100 would be 25%. Then we want to model. We want to shade the number of circles necessary to represent 1/4 or 25%. So I'm going to do the 1/4. 1/4 means 1 out of 4. So I need to shade 1 circle out of every 4. And looking at the model, I can see that the columns have groups of 4, make groups of 4. So I need to shade 1 circle out of this group of 4. I need to shade 1 circle out of this second group of 4. And then I need to shade 1 circle out of the 4, 1 out of this group of 4, 1 out of this one, and 1 out of this last group of 4. So I've shaded a total of 6 circles. What I've shaded now represents 1/4 of the circles, or 25/100ths of the circles, or 25% of the circles are shaded. However you want to look at it. What though if I weren't given the fraction and instead I was given the decimal part? Well, again, I'm going to think of money. I'm going to read this as 25 cents. And I know 25 cents is a quarter. And I know that it takes 4 quarters to make one whole dollar, and 25 cents is just 1 quarter. So there's my fraction, 1/4. And then again, 25 cents out of 100 cents would be 25%. If I were given the percent, I could look at it the same way. 25%. I know that that's 25 out of 100, so 25 cents out of 100 cents. Ooh, 25 cents. That's a quarter, right? Okay, so to make 100, I need 4 quarters, and 25 cents is only 1 quarter. So there's my fraction. So what I'd like for you to do is I want you to complete the second row, the 2/10. I want you to write the equivalent decimal percent and then shade the model to represent 2/10. Okay, pause the video, do this. Once you're done, I want you to come back and check your work. Okay, let's see how you did. 2/10. Did you take a look at this denominator of 10 and think of dimes? Hopefully so, because 10 dimes make a whole dollar. And our numerator tells us we only have 2 dimes. Since each dime is 10 cents, 2 dimes makes 20 cents. Or you can write your decimal just like it sounds, 2/10, where the 2 is in the tenths place value. 20 cents is 20 cents out of 100 cents. 20 out of 100 is a percent, 20%. The shading, I need to shade 2 out of 10, 2 out of every group of 10. Looking here, I only have 10 diamonds, so I shade 2 of them. How did you do? Okay, let's try another one. Go ahead and complete the last row. Pause the video. Once you have your answers, come back and check. Okay, let's see how you did. You were given the decimal. You were given 125 thousandths. Or looking at this, it's like 12.5 cents, right? So think about that. 12.5 cents. That's half of 25 cents. Did you remember that? And half of 25 cents. 25 cents is 1/4. Because it's a quarter. 1/4 out of 4. And if we took our 1/4, took our fourths, and we cut them each fourth into half, it would give us what? Eighths. So 12.5 cents is equivalent to 1/8. 12.5 cents out of 100 cents would be 12.5%. And we would need to shade 1 out of each group of 8. So looking at our circle graph, there are only 8 sections, so we would shade 1. Okay, these benchmarks are very important to know. Please take time out to go over your notes and try to get them memorized. Okay, next example. Megan and Harmony both have Mrs. Alfaro for math. On the last quiz, there were 20 questions. Megan correctly answered 16 questions, and Harmony correctly answered 80% of the questions. Who made a better grade on the quiz? And justify your answer. So let's take a look at what we know. We know what Harmony answered, that's not a very straight line, thank you, sorry. Harmony answered 80%. And Megan, we don't know the percent, but we know that she answered 16 questions correctly out of 20 questions. And we can definitely write that as a fraction. So she would be 16 out of 20. So we just really need to change that fraction into a percent and see if it's equivalent to 80%, if it's less than 80%, or if it's greater than 80%. And then you'll be able to answer the question. So pause the video, go ahead and solve this. Once you have your answers, come back and check. All right, let's take a look. So Megan, we know, correctly answered 16 out of 20. 20 cents. This isn't on the benchmarks. We don't have a 20-cent coin that we can turn into a whole dollar or that we can think about. But we can turn the 20 cents into a dime, can't we? We could divide by 2 and it would give us 10 cents. And that's good because that's a dime. And 10 dimes make a whole dollar. So we're going to divide this denominator by 2. We have to do the same thing to the numerator, and 16 divided by 2 is 8. So we get 8/10 as our simplified fraction. And then 8/10, you can write it just like you say it, 8/10. You could think of it as 8 dimes, which is 80 cents. 80 cents out of 100 cents would be 80%. So Megan also answered 80% of her questions correctly. So neither one did better than the other. They made the same score. They did the same. All right, great job.